Sahana vavatu, sahanau bhunaktu, sahaviryang karawa vahai, tejasvina vadhitamastu, ma vidvisha vahai. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. So we are in verse 18 to 40. And let's look at these verses like a thermometer. When a thermometer gets too cold, then we change our environment. We put on new clothes to restore a comfortable temperature. So just like that, when Krishna points out some tamasic attributes like tamasic free will, tamasic happiness, tamasic attitude, then that's like a thermometer that just went down. So immediately it tells us to do something to put our thermometer back up. So these verses are useful just to see where we're at. You don't have to align yourself all at once to the sattvic predispositions, but they're just indicators that Krishna is letting us know, here's what a healthy lifestyle is. Here's what a healthy, well-being, all-rounded, balanced person looks like, or how they act. And so by this, we can recognize and say, okay, so where am I right now? How is my life? What parts have some areas for improvement? And then we can just look at some cues, what Krishna is telling us. And some of those cues were starting from last week. And we talked about the three types of doors, verse 26 to 28, the Sattvic door. So this is the kind of, what kind of a door are you? Like, what kind of intentions are behind your actions? What kind of motivations are behind your actions? And we said that this is without pride. So this kind of person doesn't say, I am doing this in this important position, doing this important work, and I'm doing this for name, fame, or glory. Look at me, I am important. So they don't have that sense of behind the scenes self-talk that makes them feel important, or they just basically give. Their attitude is of giving. So it's got nothing to do with what position they're in, how important they are, how privileged they are. It's just about giving. What can I serve? What can I deliver to the community to help them in some way? We also said that they recognize everything that is given. So everything that you have right now is given to you. So, even this Zoom session is, the internet's given to us, the computers is given to us, the chair you're sitting on was created by some person that you'll never meet in your life. And so they put hard work into this. And because of these variables, we are sitting down comfortably and having this enjoyable experience. Even the data that's traveling underneath the sea cables right now, that's a form of optical fibers, little bits. Someone created these optical fibers some long time ago, and they put them underneath the oceans. And so we're having this experience now. So you can just imagine, without these cables, how would we communicate? We'll phone each other, and it will be a different experience. So just like that, the books that we have is given to us. The knowledge that we have is given to us. Your clothes is given to you. So there's no need for arrogance or comparing, or my knowledge is better than your knowledge. In that sense, we're all on the same path here. There's just no space for inflation or deflation. And because of these two, that is, number one, they don't have a sense of pride, nor they also recognize that everything is given to you. Then that produces a state of balance, a harmony. So they're neither inflated nor deflated in successes and failures. So something wonderful happens in life, then hey, it's going to pass, no doubt. We can all experience that. And something, suppose we go through a stage and it's not working very well right now. Maybe it's going to last a month or 2 months or 5 months. It doesn't matter. But then again, that too has its course. It's got to play its course out. And we all go through these stages where we go through happy times and sometimes not so happy times. And we just have to do the best that we can to ride these waves out. Unlike, for example, today's sports, what happens when one team wins and one team loses? Then the winners, they go out and start like hoons, and start go get drunk at the bars and like little children. And then those who lose, they start vandalizing shops, or one of the teams loses on the soccer field, and then those emotional coaches, they throw their hands out and it's so violent. It's like, where is emotional maturity here? So this is what we mean. It's a lack of that sattvic doership. Something happens, some failure happens, and they're all just lose it. Some success happens, it's equal. It's just like so excited. Hey, it's just a game. So that was Sattvic Door. Rajasic Door, verse 27, was everything is performed for the sake of likes and dislikes, raga dvesha. The whole life is about raga dvesha. What's in it for me? What can I get? Is this, going to help me? If not, not interested. So there's no real question. There is giving, but it's really more giving towards those who are close to us. When it comes to giving for the community, then that is not really a concern for a Rajasic Door. So whole life is about this whole likes and dislikes, what's in it for me. They also, owing to their value confusion, that means they're going to confuse dharma and adharma. Due to that confusion, they will not give to charities. So, and they will even stop others from giving. So, you want to give, and they will just grab your hand and go, no, don't. This is you can't trust them. And it's like, well, why? I just want to give. I feel like giving, and then it will stop you. This is because this person, even though they see it's a charity, in their mind they have a different value system. They say they don't quite trust it. Maybe they should. Who knows what they're using their money on? So they're going to get confused by that. And due to this confusion, they go through emotional turmoils, ups and downs. And therefore, the person is kind of unstable in their emotional mood. They go through hard times, they go through low times, hard times, low times, and these huge waves of extremes. One day they're hugging you and cheerful and happy. Next day, it's just totally opposite. And so Rajaguna tends to be kind of erratic. Tamasic Door, this kind of door is generally uneducated in thinking. So for this reason, they will not have discipline backing them up. So behaviors will be crude and they will be rude and they will be harsh. They will be unrefined, kind of a little bit awkward, maybe socially awkward, maybe a little bit inappropriate at times. So this is due to that procrastination. It doesn't allow the person to go out there and acquire some experience in the world, because to go out there, you need some Rajaguna to back you up, to push you. But procrastination holds the person back. And due to this, there's some clumsiness in life. And this clumsiness transforms into highly inappropriate behaviors, which also produces depression. So Tamaguna is highly indicative of depression and even suicide. I mean, I'll cover suicide when it comes to happiness, I think. When the mind gets completely covered by Tamaguna, then the person sees no reason for living, and they will fall into depression. Now, if this depression gets there sustained for too long, the person is going to find no way other than to end their life. So then we talked about Sattvic Buddhi. So this is now the intellect. We talked about the door. Now we're talking about the intellect. What is Sattvic Buddhi, the kind of Buddhi that we are to aim for? It is the Buddhi that knows what gives us bondage and what gives us freedom. Now, what is a typical person going to think? What gives me bondage? My wife gives me bondage. My husband gives me bondage. My work gives me bondage. That's not the case. A sattvic person knows what really gives bondage is what? It's ignorance, or it's lack of education. So that's the ultimate bondage. And they will also know specifically what gives bondage at any one point of time. Sometimes self-knowledge is not appropriate. Sattvic person knows where is self-knowledge appropriate and where it's not. In the cases of depression, self-knowledge is useless, basically. It's just an escapism. One has to come back into ordinary, as we said last week, DBT, dialectical behavior therapy, or some mindfulness techniques where the person can apply and get themselves and free themselves, relatively speaking. And then once they're free, they can go into a much higher teaching like self-knowledge. So they know what gives me bondage and what gives me freedom. At what stage, particularly in life, and also what is the ultimate means by which freedom is gained. They know this very clearly, and they follow that. They also know that jnana yoga is required for moksha. So they will have specifically ascertained this fact, or say the only means to which attain moksha is through knowledge, because the problem is ignorance. Therefore, the solution has to be knowledge alone. It cannot be action, because every action is limited by nature. And then we talked about Rajasic Buddhi. This is whereby the person will interpret everything sattvic that I just spoke about, but incorrectly. So it will be some things will be right, some things will be incorrect. So they will misinterpret the scriptures incorrectly. Things like a common one is they will say that in the Bhagavad Gita, Brahman and Krishna are two different things, right? Let the Advaitins pursue Brahman, we're going to pursue Krishna. So Krishna Vaikuntha, that's better. So this is a product of Raja Guna mix-up. Some things they got right, they're still reading the Bhagavad Gita. For that, you need a lot of Sattva-guna, by the way. So there is a lot of Sattva-guna there, but not enough as to ascertain that Krishna is speaking as Brahman, just as, from a standpoint of the individual. Now let's move on to verse 32 and talk about what is tamasic buddhi. Adharmam dharmam itiya manyate tamasa vrita sarvarthan viparitamscha buddhisa partha tamasi.
Atomastic intellect is that which is covered by ignorance, which regards improper adharma as proper dharma, and all things the reverse of what they are.
So all things are in reverse. This is a good indicator. So what is a Atomastic intellect? It will either not understand at all what is being talked about, or it will totally misinterpret, misunderstand. They're one and the same thing. So there's an example. So they will come to wrong conclusions. One good, interesting example is there was a school teacher who was showing a petri dish, put a little worm on a petri dish, and he showed to the kids what happens when you put alcohol, 100% alcohol, on the little worm, and the worm died. Now, one of the kids concluded and said, oh, this is wonderful. So all I have to do is just drink some whiskey and I will kill worms in my stomach. Now, a sattvic intellect cannot even contemplate, be that creative. And yet the Atomastic intellect took something so innocent just to demonstrate the ill effects of alcohol, how it actually kills life forms. And what did the Atomastic intellect do? Watching that, oh, great, let me drink this so I can kill worms in my stomach and I will be healthy that way. So this is what is called, even though you intend to demonstrate an accurate fact, a Atomastic intellect, listen to that, will totally misinterpret that. It will misunderstand it, and it will be ignorantly convinced that its conclusion is correct, and yet it is completely incorrect. Another example is, suppose the Vedantic guru says, this knowledge is the knowledge whereby you are free, and you understand it. Oh, I am free. Great. I am really free from this body-mind. And then what does a person do? Oh, this is wonderful. Now I can engage in sins. I can engage in vices because, hey, it's not me doing it. It's just my body's doing it. So this can also happen. Depends on the kind of intellect. It's Atomastic intellect. So you can see how important qualifications are to get to this point. Otherwise, it's just the whole thing is going to be a mess up. Let's see what the verse says. Ya avrta tamasa. So this intellect is veiled by ignorance. That means it's, why is it veiled by ignorance? Because Tamaguna is procrastinator. Therefore, it is a lack of experience in the real world. Therefore, it doesn't have many references to draw upon. For that reason, it's going to be veiled by ignorance. Manyate adharmam iti dharmam. So it views the improper as proper. It views sin as virtue. So anything that is completely off topic, totally wrong, it will justify, it will say why it's actually right. And it will have no doubts about that whatsoever. In fact, if you tell it the correct point of view, it will try to correct you. It will immediately come back with a good answer and then, try to convince you why it's otherwise. I don't remember, I think it was Town Hall. You get out of Town Hall station and there was a Christian evangelist and obviously talking about how Jesus is there to save you and you have to repent, you have to pray and to this altar and he's going to save you. If you don't, then bad things will happen to you. So the person is speaking this with total certain confidence, no doubt. And this is very dangerous because most people are not using their intellect. They're not thinking, they're not questioning. And so they just buy into this innocently. So Atomastic intellect is highly convinced that what it's saying is absolutely true. This is where all assumptions come from, by the way. I assume this is how it is. That's the way it is. There's no other way. And the person totally believes it without a single doubt. And this can happen to a Vedantin, this can happen to a Buddhist, this can happen to the smartest person in the world. This is why it's important to never assume. If you do not know the facts, then it is likely incorrect. Because the truth is, people are terrible at discerning the facts. Unless someone tells you directly how it is, we most likely make a mistake of how it actually is. In chapter 1, Arjuna concluded what? That the war is adharmic. In chapter 1, he told Krishna, this war is not right. And then he said, Krishna, sit down, take some popcorn and a Coke, and I will give you a nice discourse why this war is incorrect. So chapter 1, verse 39, it says, this war is going to kill people. Chapter 1, verse 40, line 1. Because families will be destroyed if I destroy these people. Killing families will destroy family values and tradition. 140, line 2. Destruction of family values and tradition will lead to impurity. 141, line 1. Destruction of impurity. Impurity will cause unrighteousness. 141, line 2. Unrighteousness will increase impurity in women. 141, line 1. Increase impurity of women will increase admixtures of castes. That means people will all meet each other. They're all just all over the place. Increase of admixtures of castes is going to destroy national values and culture. Mixtures of values and traditions from different sides is going to create hell in the nation. Why? Because the dad and the mom come together. Interracial. There's nothing wrong with interracial marriage, by the way, but suppose one of them has a tradition and the other one has a competing tradition, and they fall in love on the basis of their initial emotions, but they don't think about their culture. Then what happens? One's not following theirs, the other one's not following theirs. They come together, they produce a child. Now the child is not following either. The child doesn't know whether to look at the mom or the dad. And what does that do? The child now has no sense of culture, and therefore the nation loses its cultural values and tradition. So therefore it creates on a collective basis hell in the country. Now this is a very convincing argument, and there's a lot of truth in it actually. So Arjuna said this to Krishna, and Krishna said, it is right, but contextually you cannot say that because you are in this stage, and if you actually run away, that will be more adharmic than if you actually don't kill, because people are relying upon you, Arjuna. You're the only one that can guide them. They look upon you. They need a leader, and if you don't, or if you're not there for them, not only are you not going to lead people who generally need you, but the unrighteousness is going to continue growing anyway, because the Kauravas are spreading unrighteousness in society. And also you're going to feel guilty. And then Arjuna understood finally, okay, then what do I have to do? Teach me. So you can see how even Arjuna, highly intelligent person, will create something very convincing. And it is actually, if you look into it, there's actually much more deeper truth to it. And this is why Krishna was required. Sarva arthan viparitan. View everything perversely. So everything is backwards. I remember one line, someone during the COVID times in Melbourne said, our Melbourne public transport is so good. Do you know why? Because no one uses it. How do you create this kind of comment? Might is right, so therefore I shall bully, because to bully is to demonstrate that I have the power. So again, this is a totally perverted connection. I saw some years ago shampoo pranks, innocent people having a shampoo at their beach, and then someone just behind the wall gets out and they just put more and more shampoo, the never-ending shampoo, and they just keep on washing their hair, washing the hair. 10 minutes, it just doesn't fall off. So they took a shampoo and they made something totally cuckoo out of it. That's called perverted connections. And now let's revise the 3 types of intellect. This is from Paramarthananda. So this is what he said. He said, Tamasic intellect. What is Tamasic intellect? Those who don't know and don't know it cannot teach them. Do not even bother teaching them. For example, antisocial behavior. What's the problem? This is normal. I'm not doing anything. It's like, are you kidding me? This is inappropriate. No, this is normal. Those who don't know and don't know it, ignorant, cannot teach them at all. This is still Tamasic intellect. Those who don't know and think they know, still ignorant. You cannot teach them. For example, I know what God is. I've learned about God in school. You don't need to tell me. So they think they know what God is, but they actually don't. Those who don't know, but think they know, You cannot get across to these people. Rajasic intellect, those who don't know, but know that they don't know. Teachable, teach them. For example, hey, I know that my mind is chaotic. I know that I've got a few things to take care of in my life, but I don't know how to take care of these things. Teach me. They are teachable. Teach them. Sattvic intellect, those who know, and they know that they know. Wise, follow them. Except they're not going to say out loud, hey, I know. They're just going to be that which they know. Therefore, what is sattvic? Those who know, and they know that they know. But it's a very silent knowing. It's not an extroverted knowing. Okay, let's move on to threefold fortitude. Driktihi, converted. What is driktihi? Commitment. I'll stick with the word commitment. I think it's the best word here. Commitment, free will, or fortitude. So let's talk about the three kinds of commitment. How do we commit to things? And what does it mean to commit? Let's see. Verse 33. Driktya yaya dharayate manav pranendriya kriyaha yogena vyabhicharinya driktiksa partha sattviki.
Sattvic fortitude, determination, commitment, will, is that which makes one most intelligently utilize the functions of the mind, life force, and sense organs, and is made unswerving through yoga practice.
What does it mean to have the best kind of commitment or determination to get something done? We all need determination, yes? We all need commitment, right? What is the best kind of commitment? What does that look like? So according to the verse, this kind of person applies one's body, mind, one's efforts to the task until fully accomplished. And this prevents them from being distracted meanwhile, because a lot of distractions will come into our life while we're doing it. So you have something in your life, and there's so many things around us, family, work, and so on, but you know what's important. So that means first have to know what is important. Okay, let me do this. And then you got some distractions, go attend it, but you come back immediately, do it, finish it, at least one chapter. Suppose it's a 5-page report you have to write out. Then at least commit, absolutely, 1 page today, no doubt. Someone needs your attention. No, sorry, I need to finish this. 1 page. Tomorrow, another page until completed. This kind of commitment also provides you the stamina to get through something despite the obstacles. So suppose you want to learn something or master a new topic, like a language, and it's very hard to do that. And there's many obstacles. There's work, there's making money, there's your children and so on, and there's family and so on. But then you stick by, and while you're sticking by, there's this energy that comes. There's this something that keeps you upright, erect, strong. Do you know that feeling? When you know something that has to be done so important, it just gives you this boost of energy out of nowhere. You're not taking coffee, you're not eating anything special. It's just there. It's got to be done. So that kind of energy is what's called a sattvic stamina that comes out of sattvic free will, sattvic commitment, sattvic determination. Self-inquiry. Well, geez, I've got to ask questions all the time. No, if you know the value of self-inquiry, you're going to do it spontaneously. Ashtanga yoga, the 8 steps. If you know the value of using those 8 steps to help your mind focus, you will do it no matter what. You will do those asanas. You'll stay in the asana for 5 minutes if you know how important it is to you. So first step, do I know the importance of this to me? If not, then let me investigate. Why should I do this? Why is this important for me? How is this meaningful for me right now? Manaha prana indriya kriyaha yogena dharayate. So direct translation, dharayate, causes to hold, yogena, by yoga, what? The mind, prana, the 5 senses, indriya, kriyaha, action. But instead of doing direct translation, we'll explain. It makes the person want to fine-tune their instrument through books, through audios. There's wonderful resources today. You can take, this is my personal way to keep up to date. Today I was just in a park, and what I do is I listen to book summaries. Like you got Blinkist, you've got Summarize It, you got Optimize.me, I think, and they take an entire book and they provide the crux, like the main crux, the essential practical points out of that book. Just 20 minutes. Walk around the park, do whatever you want, and you get really educated what it means to stay up to date. It's a lovely way to keep you up to date. So this is called book summaries. And how will they accomplish this? Yogena, they will accomplish this through yoga. Just like I said, by feeding your mind, by feeding the prana. What is prana? Energy. How do you feed the energy? Well, by good thoughts, by good food, good lifestyle, and friends and companionship and so on. It's all there to feed your mind and to your well-being. And they will feed their sense exposure. How so? By aligning this sense exposure to things that are important. Okay, once in a while, YouTube or entertainment is okay, no doubt. But most of the time, you're intentional. What is my sense organs being exposed towards? Because that is feeding the mind. Also, one more point here is that Krishna is acknowledging what? Free will. Because how? By yoga. That means that can only be done through your own practice, through your own free will. So if you ever want to prove free will to someone who's a free will denier, just point them to chapter 18, verse 33. Because Krishna is acknowledging, hey, you have free will, you can get your life in order through yoga, and that implies you have to have some form of say. You have a say in this world. Okay, so free will helps us to manage that push. What is pushing me? Life is pushing me. Something's pushing me from behind. That's called your prarabdha karma. Some people go in more changes in 1 year than others can go in 20 years. Some people go through constant changes. Why? That's called your push, your prarabdha karma. And that prarabdha karma cannot be stopped, but Krishna is saying here, use your free will to manage it. For example, terminal illness. Do you have any free will there? No, zero. Terminal illness, guaranteed death. Cancer, out of control, we can't treat it. Okay, my free will is there limited. What about something lesser than that? The doctor says, no, I cannot eliminate it, but I can slow it down for you. Therefore, you can apply something to control it. And what about lesser, like a cold or a flu? Well, you can certainly drink more teas, lemon, ginger, peppermint, and all that. You got a lot of control there, but you still don't have control over what? When you feel better. But you do have control over how much vitamins, how much rest you take. So this is all the levels of free will that are exercised.
You just mentioned about terminal illness, that we don't have the free control. But I have seen friends of mine who have gone through terminal illness, told that they will die within 4 months, and then they are still living. I mean, it's almost 30 years now.
Yeah.
Well, she went through lots of changes in her own mindset and dietary and everything, and she's still alive today. And she was on the drip and with pipes going into the lungs and everywhere, and she was on deathbed. So, I mean, there must be a mind control here to heal herself.
Yes. So of course, I mean, there's always exceptions. I can only give you just a general example. Suppose the airplane just, lost 2 engines and is crashing down. You have to accept your fate. There's not much you can do. With all of the free will in the world, this is about to happen. So just like with terminal illness, yes, some of them go through miracles. And I've read a lot about this. The person runs their positive mindset, they're thinking good thoughts, visualizing, and just magically it just disappears. There's also medical qigong, and people have gone through reversing cancer somehow. But still, in life circumstances, you have to accept where is your level of control and where is it more and where is it less. And then try to just ride out those things where we have less control and spend more time in those things where we have more control. Verse 34. Yaya tu dharmaka marthan driktya dharayate arjuna prasange napala kangshi.
Rajasic fortitude, determination, commitment, will, is that which makes one pursue dharma, religious merit, artha, security, and kama, pleasure, craving for their benefits because of attachment.
Again, you don't have to eliminate rajasic commitment. In certain contexts, it's useful, but let's see what it says. Whereby patience or commitment is shown sometimes to some people, some places. For example, I heard from the news, the former president said, if I get reelected in 2024, I will pardon those who are now locked up due to Capitol Hill attacks. So he's showing commitment towards some people, sometimes in a certain place. This is called selectivism. This is what Rajasic commitment is like. But towards others who are maybe Democrats, politics, right? Then no, well, I'm not going to show that kind of commitment there. For example, the person will be highly committed towards his or her boss or manager, and they will follow it to the line. But when they come home to their family, they will not be as committed. So this is being selective, right? Towards one, but not so much towards the other. Or working very hard before the exam. We all remember this in school, don't we? Very hard a few days before the exam. And the exam comes and we do our thing. The moment the exam is finished, we let all of that work go. Never again to open the textbook. So we were really committed, aren't we? Right? Because there was something in it for us. The moment it's gone, let's drop it, put it in the fire. I've got, no, it's cold here. Where's the textbook? Throw it into the fire. Rajasic commitment. Okay, fasting on a Monday, but let's feast on a Tuesday. Selectivism. Impatient until the last moment. Sports match. The person's being patient, just lose it all patient. Last 10 minutes, they just, they take it out on you because it's been bubbling in there, being held, and it can no longer stay there. No things can stay in the body for too long. And it just comes out just like that, spontaneously. So the Rajasic commitment will say out of nowhere, I just can't take it anymore. Just like that. I just can't take this anymore. So all was smooth for a long time, and you thought everything was smooth, but inside what was bubbling? All that commitment, that Rajasic, and then I just can't take it anymore. But what does the Sattvic intellect say? This has to be done, whether it's pleasant or unpleasant, because my vision is on something much larger than this person. This has to be done. It should get done. Why? Because it should get done, because it is important. That's it. Yes, there are complaints. Yes, it's not pleasant. Yes, it hurts, but it still needs to get done. For example, you come into this class, you say, okay, it has to get done, so I attend. So you attend. I have to do this. Why? I don't know. I just have to do this. So therefore, it has to get done. It's simple as that. No complications, no complexities there. Verse. Dharma kama arthan dharayate. All commitment, all willpower is directed towards names and forms, which is okay. We need to get things done into this world consisting of names and forms, the worldly things, but all commitment towards that alone. No self-knowledge, no religious, no dharma, nothing, just worldly things. This is Rajasic, or you could say the excess of Rajasic commitment. So there will be really secure. That will give you a lot of security, all right? Like, wow, I can depend upon him. I can depend upon her. They're always there. But that's about it. It's just world, a lot of worldly commitment. But when it comes to other deeper topics, that is yet to be worked upon. Prasangena, owing to their selectivism, they do not want to part from the past earned objects or history. So this kind of person will talk a lot about their history. Hey, remember that long time ago when we were like this? Oh, good old times, good old memories. So they don't want to part from that because it gives them, as we spoke about Rajaguna, feel good. So there's a lot of talking about the past, holding on to objects. The objects that was given 5 years ago, no, it's so special. My grandmother gave it to me, which is okay. But it's so there, it's so attached that the person is just unwilling to stubbornly let go of it. So this is the product of attachment or identifying with an object that reinforces one's sense of I-ness. And this object is there to help that. Okay, verse 35, Tamasic commitment. Yaya swapnam bhayam shokam vishadam madame vacha navimunchati durmedhaha draktisa partha tamasi.
Tamasic fortitude is that by which an indiscriminate does not give up sleep, fear, sorrow, depression, and indulgence.
Okay, they do not give up things that are heavy in nature. So they stubbornly hold on to outdated or wrong notions. Stubbornly hold on to incorrect course of action. Two people are in a car, and suppose you're in the passenger seat and the other one's driving, and you both figure, okay, this is the wrong turn. You know, we missed our turn. We should be turning around by now. And you're like, no, we need to turn our back. This is, I feel it, it's wrong. But one person just keeps on going. They just stubbornly don't want to turn back. And I just keep on going further and further and further and further and further away from that course because something in them doesn't want to accept I'm wrong. This could be wrong. You know that feeling? We find a path and it's just like, oh, it's not good. This is clearly not good path. And then we just keep on going further, 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 further. Inside, I know this is wrong, but something in me doesn't want to let go of that notion. This is tamasic commitment. They will also say things like, I will not let go of this, even if I'm proven wrong. That means stubbornly holding on to a thought because it's just stubborn. Also, foolish defiance. This is where the person will say, you know, I would rather die than see my business crumble. It's foolish. Right? I would rather die than have this get destroyed because I spent so many years and time into this thing. So this is foolish defiance, foolish rebelliousness. They're willing to sacrifice their life over something that is actually not that big, not that significant. Okay, verse swapnam. So they enjoy sleeping. In fact, oversleeping. They will also one will fall asleep during the day quite easily. Bhayam, fear. The person doesn't undertake many things in life due to the fear of failure. And this is what's called building castles in the air. It's much easier to build castles in the air, imagine, to fantasize, to wonder, than to actually go out there in the real world, because tamasic is highly non-moving in nature. It doesn't move very much. So the person just fantasizes. So all kind of fantasies come from this tamasic attitude. There was an experiment some years somewhere I read that it was an art studio. The visitors were asked to provide what is wrong with this picture. And so many had something to say, like what is wrong? You know, this should be the other way around. This is not right. The colors are off and so on. People had so many things to say. Another group of people asked what could be improved. And very few people had something to say. So this is classical Tamaguna thinking, where it's easy to criticize, easy to point out flaws. But when it comes time to be productive, what can we do for the society? What can we change in our house, in our community, in our company? Then very few people have something to say. Shokam vishadam, sorrow and depression. So why? Because they're disappointed by the smallest things in life. Why would we just get disappointed by smallest things in life? Like the smallest, someone said something to me, one little word, because there's not much experience in the real world. So the person cannot draw from references. It's like, it's a brand new experience. Like, how could you say this? But if you're there in the real world, then, you know, it's not always pleasant. I mean, sometimes we get positive, sometimes we get not so positive. So this is the nature of the world. Medicine for depression, we said last week, movement, just move. Get out and move, 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 move. Let that wave ride out. So suppose something is not so well in life. What do? Just get busy, get busy. But in that business, don't stop there. Contemplate once in a while. Look for the future, look for the positives, you know, some hope, bring some light into life. Look some into the far vision thinking while moving. So that way you can not only avoid that whole wave of sadness, but also you can contemplate and get some creativity happening there. Madam. So majority of actions are for the sake of sense indulgence, smoking, drinking, intercourse, too much dating. In 2013 and 14, I was reading about the floppy bird phenomena. You know, floppy birds, this is a bird going through pipes, like pipe from the ceiling and pipe from the bottom. It's supposed to go between, you know, they're different lengths. So it's like the bird's supposed to go like that. And one man made this game and it just totally blew up. It just went so viral, so major. What do people say? They started posting comments on Twitter and saying, you ruined my life because I'm so addicted to this. I spent 8 hours playing Floppy Birds. Now, is it the fault of the Floppy Bird creator? No, it is the nature of the individual. Sense indulgence, Tamaguna commitment always flocks towards that which provides comfort, that sense indulgence, that pleasure in the moment. Let's talk about threefold happiness. Verse 36. Sukham tvidanim trividham sharnume bharatarshava abhyasa dramate yatra dukhantam channigacchati.
O Arjuna, Now listen from me to the threefold happiness in which one indulges because of habit and comes to the end of pain.
Krishna is generally introducing happiness to Arjuna. Question is, what is happiness? When we think of happiness, is it an emotion, a thought? Is it knowledge? Is it an object? Is it absence of sorrow? Is it a chemical? Is it a concept? None of that. When we think of happiness or ananda, it is just the nature of you, the nature of self, Atman. And when this nature, when you shine on your mind, assuming that mind is not busy with notions in life, what needs to get done, expectations of the environment, how the environment is to look like, what the environment should look like, what kind of people should be around me, how long they should be around me, when they should show up, what life is to look like and be like and feel like in general. When those notions are temporarily suppressed, then what naturally ensues is you. And what are you? Happiness. So whenever you feel happiness, you're feeling yourself. You're feeling your nature, your very intrinsic nature, your ananda. So we say Satchit Ananda. What's the nature of that Satchit? Is it the void? No, it is Ananda, fullness. When this happiness shines on the mind, it manifests as, for example, knowledge. So suppose you hear, hey, I've just had a new baby come, a healthy boy was born, a healthy girl was born, and you hear this. Do you feel happy? Yes. So what happened here? It's knowledge. Knowledge in the form of happiness. And that transforms into a chemical in the four koshas. So when we look at our four koshas, our mind, our intellect, our body, our prana, that is just a physical representation of what's going on in the mind. And what's going on in the mind is a thought, but what's shining on the mind is you. So when the mind temporarily suppresses itself, here's something magical, something new, something wonderful, it just goes into a little shock, like, wow. And that wow, it just temporarily silences the mind for a moment. And in that silence, you are revealed, your happiness is revealed. And it manifests in the brain. How? As dopamine, serotonin, hormones. So when the scientists look at the body, they study the body, all they really see is just a byproduct of something that took way place before. They're looking at a physical, gross byproduct of you. It's not exactly you because it's a gross manifestation. So all chemical releases that we can witness, like the pupil dilation, or the body gets hotter, or the skin gets redder. All of these are just grosser manifestations of happiness. However, when the mind shows excessive amount of vrittis, distortions, what happens is the mind gets so spiky that whatever self, happiness, shines on that mind like shining on dirty water in a bucket. There's no reflection. It just doesn't reflect anything. There's no happiness in one's life. And when a person goes through such a period where there's no reflection of happiness whatsoever, then the person says, well, what's the point of living? I want to be happy. So when they remain in the depression for such a long state of mind, they eventually say, there's no point of living. I want to end my life. Suicide actually reveals a great truth in life. And what is that? That happiness is the only truth in life. Because who wants to continue living if there is absolutely no happiness whatsoever in life? No one. So we may argue your God, my God, this God, that God, but what can none of us argue? We all want to be happy. Ananda, which is why the Vedas says, what is your nature? Ananda. What is the nature of God? Brahman. Ananda. So through our experience alone, we can see that Vedas are not talking about some belief. They're talking about what everyone is seeking, because suicide itself is a great revealer. All happiness is gone. No reason to live whatsoever. I want to end my existence. So the only thing that's keeping us alive is what? That happiness. You are still known to yourself by the reflection of the mind. And when that mind gets so spiky, then I do not know myself at all. And what is my nature? Happiness. Therefore, I totally cannot know myself anymore. And therefore, I want to end my life, because the mind has totally gone wild with its vrittis, with its notions. So that's where all the reconciliation comes. You may talk about this truth, that truth, but you cannot deny you want to be happy as much as I do. Therefore, I want to be myself. You want to be yourself. And what is the nature of self? Happiness. Now, this happiness comes in three forms. Let's talk about that. Verse 37. Yattadagre vishamiva pariname mritopamam tat sukham satvikam proktam atma buddhi prasadajam.
To be that which is said to be like poison in the beginning, which is like nectar in the end, and which is born out of the clarity of self-knowledge. We
have talked about knowledge, the buddhi, sattvic action, sattvic intellect, sattvic commitment. When all of these, the prior five, when they're all sattvic, what ensues? Sattvic happiness. So now you can break this down into a scientific way. You can say, what gives us happiness? Well, it's not just one thing. Sattvic knowledge has to be there. Sattvic action has to be there. Sattvic intellect has to be there. Sattvic commitment has to be there. When they're all sattvic, what ensues? A sattvic happiness in life. And this produces an effortless sense of cheerfulness and that sense of, I want to live. You know, living is precious. I'm so grateful to be alive. That kind of feeling, this is sattvic happiness. Sense of well-being, life is precious. What kind of examples bring sattvic happiness? Like dispassion. Dispassion is actually sattvic happiness. What is dispassion? It is feeling good in your body. You know that time when you're just feeling good? Everything's happening around you, but you just feel good. You really feel good in your body. Like, I'm really feeling great right now in my body. Like a great house to hang out in. That's called sattvic happiness. Your dispassion. You can still communicate, you can still have a joke, you can still laugh, but there's just no attachment. There's no agenda to grab, to this, to that. You're just okay. You're just totally comfortable. Sattvic happiness. Discipline. That sense of discipline, like, yes, you know, I can stay with this. I am not pulled towards weaker things in my life. That's sattvic happiness. Discipline. Discipline in life. Getting up early, doing something regularly, prayers, japa, attending classes. I've done it. I was able to do it one more time. Even though I wanted to do something else, I was able to come back and stay there as discipline. That's sattvic happiness. Concentration. Julie was telling me she was at ballet class and she totally, you know, the world faded out for her. She was totally in the moment, right, Julie? Totally in the moment. Everything else was not there. That was total concentration. And when Julie, was that joyful for you? Was that happy? A happy moment? Yeah. Julie was describing it. She was really happy. Everything was like connected, interconnected. What is that? Total concentration of the moment. This is why I want to do extreme sports, to forget about ourselves, just to be in that moment of concentration, to experience that sattvic happiness. Contribution, to give something, whether to your family, to your friend, to anyone, to the world, to share something, a smile, a hug. All of this is sattvic happiness. And they all come for free. None of these things get purchased because you can concentrate by yourself. You can be disciplined by yourself. You can surely give a hug by yourself. Presence of noble beings. Why do we like to listen to satsangs of truth? Why do we like to be in the presence of noble beings? Wise people, because it's this sattvic happiness that we get. You know, Ramana Maharishi, you know, that story. People love to go over there and they all reported the same thing. I just felt so peaceful in his presence. That's because there was sattvic happiness. God's glories, listening to God's glories, like chapter 11, the Himalaya mountains, the sun, the earth, the stars, everything is there for us to recognize our fullness, to recognize our nature. The simplest of the simplest things, like the sun rising, the sun setting, free, don't need to charge for that. A rainbow, a cloud. Now, why do we no longer feel happiness when we see clouds as we used to when we were children? Why is that? Vrittis. Because by the time you reach 12, 13, 14, 15, vrittis, your prarabdha from past life starts to fructify, and the simple things in life are no longer giving us joy. And then we have to amplify, we have to get real extreme. We have to go on a roller coaster to re-experience that same simple sense of happiness that was free and so effortless as little children. This is the power of prarabdha karma. And everyone has to go through this when they get born. Getting it, I got it, epiphanies, contemplations. This is also sattvic happiness. When you get it by yourself, when you finally understood something that's being perplexing for a long amount of time. Eva visham agre amrita upamam pariname. And this kind of happiness is like poison at the beginning. And it's like nectar only at the end. Why is this? Because initially, it's very unattractive. It's hard. It's too simple. It's got to be more complex. It's got to be more sophisticated. We have to confront our unconscious dark shadow. Look at our inner stuff through therapies. And that takes time. It's so much easier just to switch on TV and watch something. Go out with friends. Much easier. So this is very hard, very painful at the beginning. That's why it's like poison at the beginning. But once you go through years and years and years and years and years, times 2, maybe a lifetime, then it really starts to come into just a gentle sense of joy in our life. Path of good and path of pleasant. Yeah. Shreyaha, preyaha. Preyaha is very easy, path of the immediate gratification, no need to worry there. Path of shreyaha, path of hard right versus the easy wrong. Why else is it like poison? Waking up early, it's hard. Memorizing a poem, Rudram, 17 minutes, or even longer than that. Learning a new language, is that fun? Learning a new language? Okay, maybe it's a little fun, but what about if you're in a real situation, right? And you can't express yourself. It's frustration. You can reverse back to your native language. So at the beginning, it's very painful. Or put the word very, but it's painful. It's not always pleasant at the beginning. But once you learn the dance, once you learn the language, once you learn the knowledge, then you can just dribble with it like soccer, kicking the ball left and right. Atma buddhi prasadajam. This kind of happiness is born from self-knowledge or clarity of who and what you are. So whatever that high generated from jnana yoga, apparently people feel high when they listen to self-knowledge. Maybe that's why they like to hang around these satsangs and non-dual talk. So that high is that clarity of self-knowledge. In the moment, they feel like, wow, my ignorance is being removed. It's being removed. It's being removed. And every time, what's underneath the ignorance? You. So every time we take away that little maybe a brick of ignorance, what's shining underneath? The light of you, which is the nature of happiness. So whatever high a person experiences, they're experiencing that revelation of oneself in that moment. And we feel a little bit of joy there. So it doesn't have to be self-knowledge, it can be anything. You learn a new word in Sanskrit. You learn a new word in Sanskrit or in a different language, and you go, oh, I'm so happy now that I know a new word. Even though it's one single word in the entire universe of trillions of names and forms, you still feel happy. Sattvic happiness. Verse 38, Rajasic happiness. Vishayendriya sanyogad yat tadagre mritopamam pariname vishamiva tat sukham rajasam smritam.
Rajasic happiness is said to be that which is like nectar in the beginning, which is like the poison in the end, and which is born out of the contact between sense objects and sense organs.
Good. So this is the path of pleasant, preyaha. Basically, it is the contact between your 5 sense organs, either the nose, the touch, the smell, the eyes, or the ears. They see something. They see a rainbow, which is okay. By the way, most of our happiness in life realistically is from what? It's Rajaguna. We see something. Right? We see someone that we like or something that we enjoy. That is Rajaguna happiness. So there's nothing wrong about this. But let's just hear what it says. When your knowledge is Rajasic, your intellect is Rajasic, commitment is Rajasic, all of that put together, what kind of happiness do we get? Rajaguna happiness. So this means you have to know what the 5 are now in order to experience Rajaguna happiness, if you want to experience that. For Rajaguna happiness to ensue, there have to be 4 factors to come together: object, body, mind, and the environment. If the object is not in an optimal state, suppose it's gone crazy, a little bit different than you would have expected, are you going to feel that happiness? No, because I have a certain expectation how the object is to look, smell, taste, feel, and what kind of things the object is supposed to do for me. If that object is not in that optimal state, already Rajaguna happiness is not possible. Your body has to be healthy. Can you feel any happiness if you're sick in bed with a cold? No, it's very hard to experience happiness while we're sick and ill. Okay, so the body has to be healthy. So the older one gets, the harder it is to experience any joy at all, because we already know from research, the less dopamine, less hormone production. The mind has to be in an optimal state. Someone cuts you off or someone says something to you, then that's going to carry over into that place where we're supposed to enjoy that object, and it's going to reduce the kind of happiness that we have with that object, because the mind is not in an optimal state. And finally, the environment. If there's a lot of noise going on and people are just not allowing you to have any peace, is it easy to have happiness? No, because the environment is not conducive. Object, body, mind, environment. All these four together have to come in place in an optimal condition to experience Raja Guna happiness, which is okay. Sometimes it comes, but most of the times it does not come, which is why it is so hard to experience any kind of happiness in this realm. And what does all consumerism and all entertainment rely upon? All these four. What does the entire world of entertainment rely upon? These four. They need you to be healthy, the body. They need you to have an optimal state of mind. This is why they will sometimes have cheerleaders. They need to create a nice environment, like a ceiling, like a chandelier, the proper air conditioning. And they also need to have the right objects, all these four together have to come there. Now, if these four factors do come together, what happens? Then you get what you want. But then immediately what follows? Greed, lobha. I want more. One more time, please. And these four have to now be there again. And if they're not there again in the same condition, then we get angry towards one of these four. Towards our body, probably not. Towards our mind, probably not. Towards the environment, probably. Towards the object, probably. We get it, instant greed. If we don't get it, instant frustration, disappointment, anger, krodha. Okay, so this is the price one pays for looking at these four objects in their optimal state all their life. Spiritual awakening, I want another one, right? Now, again, you have to have the exact same condition, the same temperature, you have to be wearing the same clothes, but it doesn't come. And then a person gets frustrated with it, with themselves, and they go, you see, I'm not spiritual, I'm not enlightened, because they're looking at these four and they're putting spirituality under these four. Okay, so same thing, material greediness, spiritual greediness. The greediness has not left. Doesn't matter whether it's spiritual or material, greediness is still there. This is the price of Rajaguna. Verse, agre amrita upamam pariname visham. Although it is like nectar at the start and poison in the end. Why is it like nectar in the beginning? Instant gratification. Exciting. Oh, this is great. Let's have more. Excitement. We all like that, excitement. But why is it like poison in the end? Because it drains your wealth, fatigues the body, dulls the senses, exhausts the mind through the course of time. The senses get dulled out. The sensitivity of life is lost. Can no longer feel the simple joys in a smile or grass or the rainbow. It's like, it's just a rainbow. Roller coaster, woman, right? So this is the problem with Rajaguna attendance. Law of diminishing returns. This one, right? You had one cake. This is so lovely. Let's have another one. Instantly, the second one is no longer as joyful as the second. Law of diminishing returns. This is a inescapable fact of looking at these four. Vishaya Indriya Sanyogat. Like the verse said, this arises between the 5 organs of perception and the object. That means it has to contact the Vyavaharika world. Like Ravana. Ravana was lusting after Sita. What does Sita represent? The Divine Mother. And he was lusting after the Divine Mother. That's the representation there. Shurpanaka, the one that was lusting after Rama. Both gods. goddess and God, and lusting after the Vyavaharika world. This is a product of Raja Guna intoxication. One last point, there's nothing wrong with Raja Guna, happiness, as I said, but one needs Sattva Guna to fall back on, okay? This is the important part, because if we don't have something Sattva Guna oriented, like self-knowledge, like religious discipline, or tapas, or yajna, or dhanam, then if there's no fallback on, then it's going to be a much easier chance of disappointment. Let's look at Tamastic happiness. Verse 39. Yadagre chanu bandhecha sukham mohanam atmanaha nidralasya pramadotham tatamasamudahritam.
Tamasic happiness is said to be that which deludes the mind in the beginning and in the end, and which is born out of sleep, indolence, and negligence.
When the tamasic knowledge is there, when tamasic action is there, right? Tamasic doer is there, the tamasic intellect is there. When all of them are tamasic, what ensues? Tamaguna happiness. This kind of happiness makes it very difficult to get out of bed. Happiness of laziness, or procrastination, or not doing anything. Happiness from sadistic pleasures. Happiness from bullying someone or seeing them fail in life. Like, I'm so happy now that you failed. Makes me feel good because I'm in such a better position. This is also happiness, but it's tamasic, highly convoluted. Happiness from vulgarity, swear words. Some people love to swear. It's like, oh, it's my thing. Well, it's actually tamasic happiness. There's a part of them that identifies with that. Happiness from drugs and alcohol. You say, what about MDMA? What about all these, drugs and all that? This is all artificially induced in the brain. It just targets the part of the brain that's supposed to release that chemical. It is not sattvic. It is not rajasic. It is entirely gross, tamasic happiness. Okay, it's hormone, chemical based. The thrill of being chased by the police. How can this be happiness? It is happiness. They will always report, why do you do this? I just have a thrill of being chased. I like to do that. Happiness of rape, happiness of murder, happiness of revenge, happiness of domination, dominating someone, happiness of restricting their right and freedom. So how could people do this? They do it because it makes them happy, but tamasic happiness. They will also subscribe to what's called fatalism. Why? Because tamaguna doesn't move very much. So to justify why my life is not work out, what's the fastest way to justify it? Just say, no, my life is destined to be like that. You see, nothing's working out. It's all prescripted. Therefore, free will deniers, in most cases, are a product of what? Tamaguna mind. A tamaguna mind produces free will denying. I don't have any control. What's the point? Just let whatever come to me, I will go for it. I will just say yes to it. So we can see how small statements are a product of these interplay of these three gunas. Mohanam atmanaha. It deludes the mind, as we've just seen above. It deludes the mind because of this darkness. It cannot discern what is right and wrong. Nidra alasya pramada uttam. This kind of happiness is born from sleep, laziness, and negligence. Okay, verse 40. Let's conclude this section. Natadasti prativyam va divideve shuva punaha Sattvam prakriti jair muktam yadebhisya tribhir gunaihi.
Among the gods in the heaven or among the beings on the earth, there is no such entity which is free from these three gunas.
So the whole universe is born out of prakriti, matter. And this matter is divided into three types: sattva, rajas, and tamas. So the whole universe, all beings, whether sentient or insentient, it is all pervaded. Devas, devatas, rakshasas, yakshas, animals, plants, insects, birds, human beings, everything is pervaded by these three gunas. And because this is the case, it means logically that all of these things, all of these sentient, insentient matter have these proportions. Therefore, they are moved or governed or changed by these proportions alone. So now you say, what makes the differences in this world? The proportions of these three gunas that make up all beings. For example, stones. What are stones? They are dominantly tamaguna. What are animals? They are dominantly rajaguna. Or about plants? They're also Tamaguna, Rajaguna. What about animals? Well, they are more Rajaguna and less Tamaguna. So stones, entirely Tamaguna. In fact, you got 3 gunas everywhere, but mostly Tamaguna. Plants, Tamaguna, more Rajaguna. Animals, Rajaguna, less Tamaguna. Human beings, more Sattvaguna, then Rajaguna, then Tamaguna. Now, even within the human species, you have, for example, stone beings, plant beings, animal beings, and beings, Manushas. What are stone beings? Those who are dominantly Tamaguna. These are very slow, weed, smoke weed, and just relax, not do anything, not much. You got plant beings. These are a little bit more active, but maybe survival-based. Animal beings. Somewhere it said that majority of the humans on Earth are actually animal beings. Animal being just means you're doing survival-oriented things. You're just doing, mithya-oriented things. And Manushas, what is Manusha? The one that's activating their intellect for religious matters, for higher existential matters. That means for God. So you're only Manusha, technically, if you engage your intellect, your God-given intellect, made out of these 3 gunas, for that which has created this intellect, that which has created this body, which is thinking about these 3 gunas, which is Ishvara. Okay, so let's revise 18 to 40. Talked about 6 success factors, or you can call them something else. Maybe we'll call them 6 principles of life, or 6 topics that the Gita is comprised of. So if you understand these 6, you have understood mostly what the entire Bhagavad Gita 18 chapters are about. And what are they? Number 1, knowledge or vision. Why are they in the same category? Because the kind of knowledge you have about the world is the kind of vision you have about the world. This is called jnanam. What is sattvic jnanam? Sattvic knowledge, holistic. You're including matters, you're interconnected kind of knowledge, interconnected thinking. We've got partial, this is rajasic buddhi, partial. It's like the 6, we use the elephant example. I see something, but I don't want to see something else. And what is tamasic? This is whereby one part is the whole. That's it. There's nothing else. And everything else is falling in that little hole that you are looking at. So you're looking at the entire world through the scope of one single possibility, and everything's supposed to fit in that one possibility. Okay, so they're highly rational, this kind of jnanam. And then we talked about karma. This is the nature of undertaking. How do you undertake things? How do you put things into action? We talked about sattvic, which is the person thinks about consequences before doing anything. A rajaguna, we talked about, this is karma, it's raga dvesha oriented. So again, the karmas will, go towards what I like, and then I will skip those things that I don't like. Even if they're healthy, I will still not go for them just because my likes go for this and my likes don't go for that. Tamasic undertaking is whereby there's no consequences, there's no regard for the consequences. So the person will do something, but they're not going to think about how it's going to impact the environment or whether it's going to hurt me or who it's going to hurt in the first place. Then we've got attitude of the doer. This is the karta, the doer. The sattvic is, as we just discussed today, all is given. There's no sense of pride in one's action. The rajasic is all about raga dvesha. What's in it for me? What can I get out of this? And tamasic is procrastinator or careless. So they're not going to put much care into things. Sloppy, goofy, but generally sloppy in what they do. Then quality of the intellect. This is the buddhi. Sattvic, they're able to cognize clearly what is right and wrong, what is appropriate and inappropriate right now. Rajasic, this kind of buddhi will misinterpret some things, and some things it will get, some things it's not going to get. So it's going to be highly confused in some cases. And tamasic intellect is the dharma and adharma, they're reversed. So immorality is seen as morality and morality is seen as immorality. And then we've got commitment or willpower, driktihi. We said they do things whether they like him or not. It is important, and I'm going to finish it, whether I like it or not. Rajasic, the commitment is only towards what you like, but not towards what you dislike. Even if it's good, I'm not going to put my commitment there. And tamasic commitment is they stubbornly hold on to the old notions. So I'm stubbornly committing to that which is old, and just because it gives me comfort, I'm going to hold on to it. That's tamasic commitment. And finally, the nature of happiness, sukham. We said sattvic is poison at the beginning, nectar at the end. Rajasic is nectar in the beginning, poison in the end. And tamasic is just generally bed bliss. And I just want to give you a little visual of how to look at this, and then we will close. So we've got intellect, buddhi, and attitude of the doer, karta, vision, okay, jnana, drishti, nature of the undertaking, karma, and fortitude or commitment. So when all of them together flow into we could call it the central portion of life, then your life, this is called life, is an effect of that. So you ask yourself right now, what is my life like? And you say, well, it is, what kind of happiness are you experiencing on a daily basis? Suppose I ask you that now. What kind of a happiness are you experiencing on a daily basis? Is it cheerful, effortlessly, or do you have to do something to be happy? Now, whatever it is, you just go, okay, so what kind of happiness do I want? Suppose you say sattvic. So is my intellect sattvic? Is my doership sattvic? Is my vision of life sattvic? Is my undertaking sattvic? Is my fortitude sattvic? So this is the science of happiness. Very nice chart and very practical. Sarve bhavantu sukhinaha, sarve santu niramayaha, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschit dukha bhag bhavet. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.